So before we get started, I just want to say I'm sorry for the huge delay between videos. I've been super busy and really haven't had the chance to get and edit stuff, so I really appreciate everyone's patience with me. There's been a ton of views, likes, comments and new subscribers coming recently, so thank you so much for all your support and spending time out of your day to watch my videos. You're all completely amazing and triple S tier subs. Also, I'm going to apologise for the length of the video. This one's going to be longer than normal as Nobushi is really quite complicated. Anyhow, enjoy. Hello there and welcome to the channel. My name is Mighty Matman and in this video I'm going to be providing a guide on the original samurai hybrid hero, Nobushi. Nobushi on the character select screen is listed as having long range and versatile retreats. Nobushi is For Honor's version of a zoner character. Now I don't mean zone attack specialist like JJ, but as the term used for 2D fighters like Street Fighter. A zoner in that sense is a fighter that uses projectiles or long range attacks to keep their opponents away and punish their approach. Nobushi's kit shows that she is primarily a defensive hero and that to use her effectively you need to be patient and learn to strike at the right moment. This guide will assume you know the basics of For Honor combat and you're also familiar with the terminology, such as guard breaks, parrying, chains, and feints, etc., and is aimed at new and existing players to help learn a new character. Nobushi has 3 chains. Poke the Nest is a 3-hit light attack chain. If the second light in the chain successfully hits your opponent, then the third light is guaranteed. When the third light hits your opponent, bleed damage will be applied. Hiss and Bite is a light opener into heavy finisher, and Death Rattle Form is a 2-hit heavy chain. Light attacks from the top hit for 18 damage but are slow at 600 milliseconds, whilst side lights are a little quicker at 500 milliseconds but only do 12 damage. The third hit of Poke the Nest hits for 26 damage, 6 direct and 20 bleed. Side heavy openers do 30 damage and side heavy finishers hit for 24. Top heavy opener hits for 38 damage and top heavy finishers hit for 33. These damage values all change when Nobushi's passive comes into play. Nobushi deals 20% more damage to a bleeding target. Side lights in this instance hit for 15 damage, and top lights increase to 22. The third strike from Poke the Nest also increases to 32 damage, 8 direct and 24 bleed. Side heavies increase to 36 and 29 damage respectively, and top heavies increase to 46 and 40 damage respectively. This can get pretty confusing, so here's a quick recap. Feel free to pause the video and make notes, mental or otherwise, as I know sometimes it's easier to remember damage numbers when people can see the data. When out of lock and sprinting towards your opponent, press light attack to use Slithering Thrust. This hits your opponent's left guard for 26 damage, 6 direct and 20 bleed. Alternatively, pressing heavy attack performs Coiling Slash. This also hits the left guard and does 17 damage. Neither attack can be used as chain starters. Coiling Slash increases to 21 damage against bleeding opponents. Slithering Thrust shares its damage values with the third hit from Poke the Nest, as well as Cobra Strike and Viper's Retreat, but more on those moves later. Nobushi's zone attack hits your opponent's left guard also. The first hit is a heavy attack that does 20 damage, and the follow-up is a light attack that deals 21 damage, 1 damage direct and 20 bleed. The first part of the zone hits for 24 damage against bleeding opponents, and Nobushi's zone attack thankfully can be feinted, as the follow-up light attack is an easy parry for your opponent. Dodging either left, right or forward and pressing light attack performs Cobra Strike. This does 6 direct damage and 20 bleed, increasing to 8 direct and 24 bleed against opponents already bleeding. Cobra Strike is confirmed from a throw by pressing light attack immediately after you've thrown your opponent. This variation only does 2 direct damage while keeping the 20 bleed. Against bleeding targets, only the bleed will increase to 24. Inputting backwards direction and light attack performs Viper's Retreat. This attack comes from the direction that your guard is currently in, and again hits for 6 direct and 20 bleed, and then 8 direct and 24 bleed against bleeding targets. Inputting heavy attack whilst dodging either left or right performs Sidewinder Form. This attack does 25 damage and can execute on a kill. It also has some follow-up options that I'll explain later in the video. Against bleeding opponents, the damage increases to 30. If you input a Sidewinder immediately into the dodge, then you will not be able to evade and counter attacks. You can delay the attack as to successfully dodge and strike your opponents. The timing is a little tricky, but it's worth practicing due to the follow-up potential. This can also be achieved using Cobra Strike. Make sure to go into training mode and practice to get the timing down. Pressing guard break after a light or heavy attack will perform a kick. It doesn't matter if your attacks miss or your heavy attack is blocked, you still have the option to kick. This can ledge opponents and wall splat them too. You can also kick after a sidewinder. And you can kick from hidden stance. If your kick successfully lands, you can guarantee a Cobra Strike by pressing light attack. If the kick wall splats your opponent, you can net yourself a top heavy. After you block an attack, you can press dodge to perform swift recoil. This is intended as a spacing tool and complements the zoner identity of Nobushi. You can also perform a swift retreat after a swift recoil. This is basically a Viper's retreat. This is difficult to execute, but on top of that you need to switch your guard between the swift recoil and the swift retreat to avoid your attack being blocked. The problem with this technique, however, is that you are quite vulnerable to chain attacks. Enemy follow-ups will interrupt both swift recoil and swift retreat, so use this at your own risk. And now for arguably the best defensive tool in the game, Hidden Stance. Hidden Stance is a complicated mechanic that is easy to understand in theory, but takes a lot of time and matchup knowledge to fully understand and use effectively in practice. By moving your guard down, you will enter Hidden Stance. You can hold this stance down, but during this time you will not recover stamina and you cannot block attacks. After you exit Hidden Stance, your stamina regeneration will stop for 3 seconds, before resuming, meaning that whilst powerful, Hidden Stance is not to be abused without consequence. During the startup of Hidden Stance, it has dodge properties, so it can be used to evade attacks and counter. Hidden Stance counts as the first hit in your chain, so afterwards you can go into the latter half of Poke the Nest. This variation will obviously do less damage overall, but it is much safer than the 2 required hits normally needed to confirm the 3rd. You can also opt to perform a heavy attack after a Hidden Stance as well. Neutral light and heavy openers can be cancelled into Hidden Stance also. This is, however, very stamina taxing, so use with caution. You can cancel your attack recovery by using Hidden Stance or Viper's Retreat. Don't make this a habit though, as Viper's Retreat is very easily parried. You can also cancel the recovery of kick into Hidden Stance. Your dodge attacks, namely Cobra Strike and Sidewinder form, can be chained into Hidden Stance, a kick, Viper's Retreat, or dodge. And since it can be chained into a dodge, it also means it can be chained into another dodge attack. This may look aggressive, but since Sidewinder and Cobra Strike can't be feinted, they are attacks just begging to be parried. Still, mix up your cancel options and stay on the move to surprise your opponents. Before I cover Nobushi's punishers, here's a quick damage value recap for those interested. Feel free to pause the video if necessary. On a guard break, do a top heavy for 38 damage. Wall splats also give you a top heavy for 38 damage. Heavy parry punishes change depending on whether your opponent is bleeding or not. If they are not bleeding, you can confirm Viper's Retreat for 26 damage, 6 direct and 20 bleed. If they are already bleeding, you can hit a light attack from the top for 22 damage or the first part of your zone attack for 24 damage. Make sure to feint the second part. Light parries are simple enough, just do a top heavy for 38 damage. This will increase to 46 if your opponent is bleeding. When throwing an out of stamina opponent who is not bleeding, direction of the throw doesn't matter. You need to delay your guaranteed Cobra Strike and then input a top heavy for 72 damage, 52 direct and 20 bleed. Be aware though, as this punish is unsafe. If your opponent is already bleeding, then throw forwards and input 2 top heavies for 86 damage. Throwing any other direction will cause the first heavy to miss. If you are certain you can kill your opponent, then just go for 2 top heavies regardless of bleed. If they're not bleeding, the damage will be 71. If you do not delay Cobra Strike, then your opponent will not be unbalanced. When there's a wall nearby, throw your opponent to the wall and delay your Cobra Strike. Input a top light and chain into a kick, which will wall splat, granting you a top heavy. Total damage is 94, 74 direct and 20 bleed. Special thanks to Skaegor and his subscribers for this discovery in his recent video. Thanks buddy, I would have missed this otherwise. When parrying an out of stamina opponent who is not bleeding, you should do a Viper's Retreat and cancel the recovery into a Sidewinder form. This will do 56 damage, 36 direct, and 20 bleed. Against bleeding opponents, do a top light into top heavy. This will do 62 damage. Alternatively, you can do your Poke the Nest triple light chain all from top stance. This will do a total of 62 damage versus non-bleeding opponents, and 76 damage against opponents who are bleeding. If you guard break your opponent when you are out of stamina, you can get a side light for 12 damage. The top light can be blocked. You can, however, get a top light for 18 damage if you parry a light attack when out of stamina. You can still get a top heavy from wall splats when out of stamina, but the distance has to be at max range from the wall, and this will only work on a forwards or backwards throw. On revenge activation, you can confirm your triple light combo from top guard for 84 damage, 56 direct and 28 bleed. As for Nobushi's feats, to this day I have still never ran Iron Lungs. It's okay for escaping, but there are still better options. Speed Revive is nice for breach, whilst Body Count is your go-to for Dominion, especially since Nobushi can chain Sidewinders to clear minions effectively. Arrow Strike isn't terrible, but isn't good either. If you can consistently hit with them, then it's a good pick. Smoke Bomb is the winner here for me, as hiding Nobushi's attack intentions only serves to help her, and whilst I normally would advocate revenge attacks, Nobushi is easily the worst beneficiary of this feat due to her lack of offensive pressure. Second Wind is again a top tier feat, so always worth taking, unless you prefer the 50 damage longbow. Sharpened Blade, unfortunately, is wasted on Nobushi, due to her already having several bleed options, and she is unable to stack bleed like Peacekeeper or Shaman can. Stalwart Banner is the anti-ganker's best friend, and helps the commander stay healthy while defending in breach. Arrow Storm has potential but requires correct timing to get the most out of it. Fire Trap is unique to Nobushi and can be used to safeguard the cauldron if you're a breach attacker, or it can be placed in the minion lane of Dominion to catch anyone trying to retake that point from you. The standout perks here are Rising Dawn and Rapid Refresh, seeing as they synergize very well with Speed Revive. With 3 potential feats capable of healing Nobushi, you don't really need to take Remedy. I'd recommend in its place Feline Agility to maneuver around the battlefield quicker, or Supersonic if you're not confident in a scenario you wish to escape from, though as always these are only my recommendations. In conclusion, and in all honesty, it's difficult to recommend Nobushi. She isn't very beginner friendly, and while she does have incredible damage and a solid defense, she sorely lacks an offensive capability. The hidden stance punishers are numerous as they vary from matchup to matchup. Nobushi does have some strong feats and is a good ganker, especially when paired with Shaman, though her dueling prowess leaves much to be desired. That isn't to say she's terrible though. In the right hands, Nobushi is a complete monster. Hopefully, the devs will give the girl some much needed attention sooner rather than later to make her more viable and accessible without sacrificing her core identity. If you found this guide helpful, leave it a like and consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Remember to tick the bell icon to receive notifications of new content, and please comment down below if I've missed anything out. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now.